Undisputed.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from L.A. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Guys, how we doing?
We're doing good, Skip. Who'd have thought a black head coach could knock Tom Brady? An ex-black.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to say to you that in sheer shock value, the Brian Flores bombshell was right there with the Brady retirement bombshell. So let's discuss.
All normally scheduled programming.
Absolutely. I started reading everything yesterday, and of course, we're hearing more from Flores this morning as he's making some media rounds. We're going to get into all that, and I want your thoughts right now. Here's the latest. Former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores has filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL and several teams alleging discrimination in the hiring processes across the league. And in this suit, Flores cites text messages Bill Belichick sent to him, mistakenly thinking he was messaging Brian Daboll, saying that Daboll had already secured the Giants head coaching job days before Flores had even interviewed for the position. We've seen the text messages. We know the situation. Shannon, scale of 1 to 10, how much impact will this lawsuit have?
A 2. Because I think it's going to be something really, really tough to prove to make a long-term impact, Skip. At the end of the day, it's up to the 32 owners to make this right. Skip, when we hear about NFL, everybody wants to run, jump on Roger Goodell. Everybody wants to run, jump on Troy Vincent. But you know you've covered this league. They have bosses, and there are 32 of them. I can't tell, Commissioner Goodell and Troy Vincent can't tell these men, hire this or hire that. They've tried to incentivize it. We'll give you extra draft compensation if you do this. Man, please. Nobody thought, Skip, when Jerry Jones brought in Marvin Lewis last year, that Marvin Lewis was going to get that job. Everybody knew it was a token. Skip, they've even tried to add more teeth to the Rooney Rule. Now you got to bring in 2 minority coaches. Now you got to bring in 2 minorities for upper management.
Yep, from outside your organization.
Outside your organization.
Yep.
And guess what? Nothing. Brian Flores, right now, he's isolated. And when you're isolated, Skip, it's easy for you to pick off. If you notice animals, they like to herd together. That way it makes it easier for one of them to get picked off. Once you find one isolated, it makes him easier to attack. He's hoping that other black coaches, other minority coaches, join this lawsuit and share similar experiences from what he's gone through. Now it gives it more credibility. Now it gives it more teeth.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping also, I just saw something, Skip, and I didn't get an opportunity to look at it because I was rushing up here to get mic'd up, is that Hugh Jackson says I can share some of my experiences also. Skip, it's just, look, Brian Flores might be the Curt Flood, and you know who Curt Flood is. And for our younger viewers, Curt Flood is responsible for free agency in baseball.
Yes.
We see the money that all these guys make. He didn't benefit.
Okay, just quick story, because that was my favorite childhood team, and he was one of my favorite players for the old St. Louis Cardinals of the 60s. And all of a sudden, he gets traded to Philadelphia, and he doesn't want to go to Philadelphia because Philadelphia is where he had experienced the worst racism as far as jeering and catcalls and whatnot. Right. And he said no. And Marvin Miller, then the head of the players' union, said, okay, well, let's sue. And they sued, and they went to the Supreme Court, and he lost. But he won because it paved the way. It opened the door for free agency. But in that case, there was a realistic goal out there of, what if we just open the floodgates? Well, now baseball players are by far the highest paid across the board because he sacrificed a job, and he got, however you want to say it, blackballed, or you like to say whiteballed. And I'll go with whiteballed. But Curt Flood was done at that point, and he was a really good, he was a Gold Glove center fielder. Who, this was 69 when this happened, and by 71, he's out of baseball because he sacrificed for the greater good. Okay?
And that might be what Brian Flores is having to do, Skip.
I got you.
I'm surprised that he did it, considering that he was still in the process of interviewing for other jobs, but it just lets you know the level of frustration which he had reached.
Okay, but my point on Curt Flood was that was a realistic goal of, let's open the floodgates. Do we have a realistic goal here? Are we ever going to open the floodgates for black head coaches? No. Are we ever going to get where the NBA has gotten at this moment?
No.
They have 14 black head coaches in the NBA out of 30. 14 of 30. They only have one black owner, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. It's only one black owner. There are no black owners in the sport of the National Football League, but we now have one of 32 left standing Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh in the National Football League, right?
Right.
From a high in 2018 of 8. So we've gone from 8 down to 1 in 2022. Go ahead.
And that's the thing, Skip. The end goal was to say, okay, let's have free agency. I should be able to go test the open market and get what the market will bear.
Yeah.
In this situation, you're trying to change the hiring practices. But, Skip, and they always fall. What's the fallback, Skip? We just want to hire the best guy for the job. It seems to me that you think always the best guy for the job happens to look like you. That's not an accident. But, Skip, it's like that. Sports are a microcosm of society. That's how it normally works in society. It takes a special person to hire someone that doesn't look like them, that doesn't talk like them, that doesn't come from a similar background as them, or doesn't know someone that knew them.
Yep.
It takes a special person to do that.
It does.
And Brian Flores is saying, look, guys, you bring him in. You had already hired Brian Daboll. You bringing me in was a sham. Even though you didn't know I knew that, because Coach Belichick, I recommend you put Brian Flores and Brian Daboll just by leaving it in there, Brian.
Maybe you should put their last name.
Yeah, Brian Daboll
in your
and Brian
contacts.
Yes.
Right?
Congratulations on getting the job. You know something I don't know? Yeah, you got the job, right? I'm interviewing on Thursday.
Then he texts back, Coach, are you sure you're not texting Brian Daboll instead of Brian? This is Brian Flores.
Yes.
And Belichick texts back, I effed up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Whew.
I'm sure there are other situations, Skip. A lot of times they're brought in because what, Skip? You got to interview a minority from outside your own organization. And a lot of times this is what they do to pacify. But let me tell you what the NFL will do. The owners are going to say, you know what, we're doing the best we can. We'll let them put another slogan on their helmet. We'll put some slogan in the end zone. We'll hang something from the building to show that we have the symbolism, but nothing with teeth, nothing of substance. And that's what they do. They'll pacify you. Okay, we'll give you a month, but we ain't going to change anything. Okay, we'll give you some slogans, but nothing changes.
Yeah.
And Brian Flores is willing to risk, I believe, his coaching future in order to bring about change. And he said it, Skip, he understands. It might cost me my coaching career.
It might.
But if I can bring about some change, some things need to change, and he's willing to run the risk. There are a lot, Skip, I believe there are a lot of black coaches that possibly thought about this, but saying if I sue the institution that I want to work in, the likelihood of me ever working in that institution again is not very good. We saw what happened with Colin Kaepernick. We knew it, first of all, we knew it was a death sentence the moment he took the stand that he took. Once he brought litigation, we knew for an absolute fact he's never, ever going to play another down in the National Football League. Hopefully, but Skip, I'm afraid that Brian Flores probably coached his last game in the National Football League.
I cannot tell you how much I hope you're wrong about that. I cannot tell you how much I hope you're wrong about a 2 in impact on a scale of 10. My head tells me you're right. My heart tells me please be wrong, because I'm going up to a 6 on a scale of 10 in impact, but I'm wearing rose-colored glasses, and I have been for years on this. And
You're very optimistic.
Too optimistic when it comes to this, but I've seen it start to work and then it fails miserably, and I can't come to grips with a solution here, because in the end it boils down to each owner individually as an independent operator operates this franchise under the guise of the National Football League. And Roger Goodell cannot tell any single owner what to do or not to do. He cannot.
Actually, he worked for them.
He does work for them. So let's break down. These are allegations.
Right.
I got it. But I have to start with this one. I'm sorry. The biggest bombshell in the middle of this bombshell was the allegation that Brian Flores says he was offered $100,000 a game.
Oh, my goodness.
To lose games so they could tank for a better draft pick.
Right.
And that came from Stephen Ross, the owner and operator of the Miami Dolphins. And Brian Flores said on CBS this morning that he believes that that was attacking the integrity of the game. So he said absolutely no.
Correct.
And obviously
that's what he should have said.
Yeah. And he said that ultimately hurt my standing within the organization because I would not collaborate on those kinds of matters.
Right.
and ultimately was the reason I got let go. If that's true, if it can be proven true, how can Stephen Ross be allowed to continue to own a team?
Yeah, he would definitely have to go.
Wouldn't you have to go?
Yes, absolutely.
This is on the magnitude of a Donald Sterling with the Clippers.
Yes.
It's not the same thing, but it's the magnitude of that.
Actually, it's worse, Skip, because sports is about I'm trying to win the game. You can't deliberately throw the game. That's fixing the game. That's the equivalent of somebody going out there like, I'm going to miss shots.
You're going to try to lose this game?
Absolutely.
Offered him $100,000 a pop, lose one, and that he got angry.